This is Joshua Hart here for Seconds Out. Delighted today to be joined by Denzel Bentley yet again. Denzel, it's starting to become a bit of a regular thing, these Zoom interviews. I feel like out of all the people I interview, I'll probably interview you the most. And this one comes at a perfect time. Last time we spoke, you said you wanted to be out before the end of the year. You wanted to be in the big fight, and I think all those boxes have been ticked. You headlined Wembley Arena December 7th as you challenged for the British title yet again against Brad Pauls, the man who defeated the man that defeated you almost a year ago now. So the fight's here, the fight's signed. Buzzing?
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's good. It's good. Like you said, I want to be out by the end of the year, and I'm out, so can't really complain about that. Happy to be headlining. That's the extra bonus. And yeah, man, I'm just ready to go. Ready to go.
Obviously, another shot at the British title. Is this your third fight now where you'll be challenging for the British title?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, probably one too many, but it is what it is. I'm in a good position anyway. I get to stay active, and I get to headline Wembley, so I ain't complaining, man. I'm happy.
Obviously, you mentioned wanting to stay active. There's staying active, but obviously, one thing we spoke about off camera is going from Danny Dignam to Derek Osaze, and in no disrespectful way to Derek Osaze, but it just seemed a bit of a sidestep. This seems like that step up again. While we know you've been at this level before, is getting back into those title contentions for major titles and opening those doors to world level. Obviously, we already know you're WBO number two, but it just gives you a few extra belts to add to the collection. Although you've already got that British title sat there anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, a few extra belts. He's got the WBA Continental title as well. That's an opportunity to add that to my collection and become a three-time British champion, and obviously move on in hopes to achieve my ultimate goal and becoming a world champion. So it keeps me busy, keeps me nice and active, keeps me sharp, keeps me moving forward, and it just gives me more experience. Another box ticked, on my way to a world title shot. So yeah.
Obviously, you mentioned Brad holding that WBA title. A win over Brad also will get you ranked with them higher as well. Is it going to be a world title? Obviously, without overlooking Brad, we know what happened with the Nathan Heaney fight. All the talk in the build-up was Denzel goes through and goes to the world title, and then on the night, obviously, we know about the issues that you had before the fight that you mentioned. Is it full focus on Brad and not looking at that next step just yet?
Yeah, 100%. I'm Brad dangerous. He carries a lot of power. He stopped, Heaney. So and Heaney's a tough guy. So Brad carries power. He's dangerous. So he's not someone I want to kind of like overlook and just get caught slipping the games. So I've got to be fully focused for this task and do a real job.
What did you make of the 24 rounds, or the almost 24 completed rounds that Brad Paul shared with Nathan Heaney?
I thought it was a good fight, but two good entertaining fights. The second one I thought was obviously clearer that Brad was winning up until the stoppage anyway. But the first fight was a lot closer, but they were both entertaining rounds, man. I'll be honest with you.
Is there anything you can take away from those performances that you know Brad
No,
did?
just they were good fights. I mean, I watched it as a fan. I wasn't watching it thinking I was going to fight any of them. Well, I think I did say I'd rematch Heaney if it was there, if he'd won. Um, but I didn't think I'd be fighting Brad Paul, if I'm being honest. So I wasn't really looking at it that deep. I was just watching it as a fan.
Do you feel sometimes it's better as a fighter while there's a fight so close to your level in Brad Paul's and Nathan Heaney at the time that you don't need to watch every fight, I suppose, is scouting to see if they could be your next opponent. Sometimes it is just better just to just enjoy the fight.
No, well, so everyone's different, isn't it? Like, I'm generally a fan of boxing, so if there's a good fight on, I just watch it, yeah, just for entertainment purposes. I just watch it just to watch it and enjoy it. I'm not always on a scouting mission. I think I've seen enough of everyone in my division to be wanting to have a scouting mission. Oh, let me see what they're doing. I mean, if we end up fighting, all them fights are online. I can go on YouTube and search back and see a couple of fights. But at the time, I don't even score the fights, to be honest. I just watch it and just entertained by them.
Fair enough. And how long have you known about this opportunity to face Brad Paul's? Obviously, the card was announced last
I'll be
night.
I'll, I'll be honest with you. I found out the day before it was announced.
So there
Like,
wasn't, was there no talks like at all? Like you didn't hear any whispers maybe beforehand?
I mean, so when I got called to fight Hamza for the European, I was then told that Hamza's going to move on, but whatever he got called for the WO, they may make they may make the Brad Pauls fight for the British and the European. And then I saw Brad Pauls get called to fight Kieran Conway, and I thought, oh, that's out the window. Then if the board have sanctioned that, then he's going to fight Kieran Conway. And I never heard nothing about it since. And then just the day before, I got told, oh, like, what tickets you want for the fight? Because you've won it. And I was like, on what? And then they said, yeah, we're announcing it tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, oh, cool, fuck it. Let's do it then, innit?
So you've already been in the gym. Obviously, we know that you stay in the gym, but training
Yeah,
camp
yeah, yeah.
well underway, I suppose. Or
I mean, I'm always in the gym. I mean, I was hoping to get at the end of this year anyway. I didn't think I was going to make that card because I thought, all right, cool, that's closing in. I ain't got a date. But I'm always, even if I wasn't on that card, I'd still be in the gym now, if that makes sense. So it's not a big deal. There's still, 6 weeks. That's more than enough time to get ready, especially as I'm always in the gym. So yeah, there's no worry, there's no panic, there's nothing. It's just, cool, calm, collected, get on with the job. And I've taken fights on short notice anyway, so I'm not really bothered. This is, for me good enough time. But yeah.
and then December 7th, you headline Wembley Arena. I think it's only I just doing a little look at your box rep before. It's only the second time you fought at Wembley Arena.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Headlining another Magnificent Seven card as well. Your second time headlining. Is this? I guess you could say the best fight out there for yourself right now.
Oh well, the best fight out there for me would have been Hamza Janibek, but this is also a good fight. And to get those fights, I've got to get through this fight. So yeah, I mean, this is the best we could have got with with the options we had.
And what happens December 7th when you get in there with Brad Pauls?
Listen, man, you don't see my last two performances. Explosive, two knockouts. So yeah, I think I'm going for the same sort of statement I've made this year. Make it 3-3.
Fair play. And then, Denzel, we obviously know that you're a big boxing fan, a good pundit, a good analyst. So I want to get your thoughts on some of the big news flying around the boxing circuit right now. It's been a couple of weeks now since we saw Beterbiev-Bivol when we last spoke. But I do want to just grab a few thoughts on a few fights on the card. Obviously, we'll start off with the main event. You said that you believe Beterbiev was going to win, but on points, and you called it spot on. What did you make of the 12 rounds shared between the two men?
See, I thought it was a good fight, like a high level fight. Both guys had to try and outthink each other, but Beterbiev had to try and outthink and outwork Bivol because Bivol was just too smart. He was very. I was really impressed with Bivol still. Like the bare minimum got through to him. I still think Beterbiev won, to be honest. I'll be honest with you, but like, he just skimmed it. Like, I don't think it was any wide decision. I don't think it was a robbery. I just think the right man won. If they called a draw, I'm not complaining. If they called Bivol one, I'm not complaining either because some of the work he done was exceptional. But he just kept letting go of the end of every round. The end of every round, Beterbiev would finish on the front foot, and he'll finish stronger. And those are the things that the judges remember and stuff. He done some clean work. He done some clean work early on. I thought both fighters boxed like brilliantly. They boxed amazingly, and they just showed their level that neither of them could get the better of the other so easily, and they had to really work for their spots and pick where they needed to, capitalize and stuff like that. But it was a really good fight, man. It was a really good. I think that was one for the purists. I don't know if the casuals enjoyed that, but I did. But yeah, it was a good fight.
Well, I can confirm some of the casuals did enjoy the fight. I was talking to one of my mates who doesn't really watch
Okay.
boxing during the fight, and he texted me in round 12 saying, "I don't want this fight to end just yet." So I think I
Yeah,
think
fair
I think
enough.
it caught the eye. I think it caught the eye.
Yeah, that's
One thing
good.
you mentioned there about Beterbiev always finishing on the front foot. As a fighter yourself, obviously you've been 12 rounds before and you know what it's like. Do you feel those last 30 seconds are the most important like bit of the round, I suppose, to leave that memory in the judge's mind?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, a lot happens in 3 minutes. If you land a big shot right at the beginning of the round, the judges ain't just going to be sitting there thinking, "Oh, I remember that shot he landed from the first round." If nothing else happens in the fight, then it is what it is, isn't it? It's like, okay, I remember he done a bit of work early. Nothing happened after that. You mark that. But if you land that big shot in the first round and then your opponent lands it back and then you're going back and forth, you got to make it clear. You got to clear it. And I'm not saying you have to be in the front foot to win a round. If you're going to be in the back foot, you got to make it look like you're not being forced in the back foot, and your choosing to just outbox your opponent. And I'm not saying Bivol didn't do that. He did in spots, but a lot of the times it looked like Beterbiev was actively forcing his will on him and throwing a lot of shots. But yeah, I think the last minute to 30 seconds is very important because that's what's going to stick in your mind. Like if you land a big shot right in the bell, it's like, oh, that was a shot. But it just depends on what kind of work you've done early. But yeah, I think it's important to nick the last, the back end of the round in the fight.
Did you see any of the mistakes that you called out last time from Beterbiev? Did you see any of them?
It's hard to say. I mean, he knew what type of fight he was in for, so he wasn't making loads of mistakes. I see him, like, fight. I see him fight a few guys beforehand, and like he pulls out a lot of his hands down. He weren't doing that as much. The defense from both guys were really good. Bivol's defense was better than Beterbiev's, and I think it is just better in general. But he wasn't making a lot of those mistakes. But that's because of the type of fighter he was fighting. I mean, Bivol came forward at times, but he wasn't actively trying to bully Beterbiev to go back. So it made less mistakes on Beterbiev's side.
And then a fight on the undercard, a man that Frank Warren has wanted to have you fight a few times now, Chris Eubank Jr. Obviously, his tick-over fight, his return fight against Kamil Zarameta in a standard seventh round stoppage. I'm not going to get your thoughts on the performance, but more the post-fight aftermath. So we saw the rivalry reignited with Conor Benn. And normally when you have a face-off, you have the promoter in the middle. They decided to swap out the promoter for Neymar this time. Just before we talk about the rivalry reigniting, what was going through your mind when you saw Neymar in the middle of the face-off of all people?
I was just laughing, thinking he doesn't understand a word what they're saying. You don't know what's going on. And then Connor started speaking Spanish, and I understand he's played in Spain, so probably can speak Spanish. But I'm like, he speaks Portuguese. He's Brazilian. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was like, oh, whatever. Yeah, it's a bit mad, but listen, go out there, go get your money, just make the fight happen, and let's get over and done with, man. I think it's being dragged out, a bit too much.
Do you feel the storyline of the fight has changed possibly, and the fact the first time the fight was made, it was about the family history between the two names, but over time it's kind of grown to be a little bit more personal now between the two fighters themselves.
Yeah, I think so, but I also think that's made a lot more people kind of tired of it. Everyone was excited about the history of the family, and we're gonna get this fight that we really shouldn't get. And I was just dragged on a bit too much about a beef between the two of them, which really there shouldn't be any beef. Like, there's nothing really that's happened between them to make them, want to dislike or hate each other so much. So it's just more like, oh, just get over and done with. Like, it's been dragging. It's the fight that shouldn't really happen because they're two weight classes apart. Um, of course, what happened with Conor. Pardon me. Of course, what happened with Conor happened with Conor, and everyone just wants him to be cleared or just be allowed to box so they can get the fight on. But it's like every time they see each other, they're trying to make a scene. Every time they see each other, they're trying to make it like memorable. There's never a time where they see each other and it's like, oh, okay, cool, we'll get the fight. It's always like oh, this happened again, and it's like it's not with any real intention. I mean, if you saw their fathers back in the day meet up and get into a heated, it might end up in a little scrap. It's real tension. Do you know what I'm going to say? At this point, it just feels like you lot are trying to, sell this to a point where it's like it's been sold. It's no longer sellable. Just get it on. People will watch it anyway.
Do you think, obviously, one thing that I've seen people say is that this fight seems a lot more personal for Conor Benn rather than Eubank. Eubank seems very nonchalant about it. He's not really kicking up too much of a fuss. Normally, when we see the two come together, it is Conor Benn igniting it.
But that's just their personalities. Their personalities, like through every build up, you see every fight. Eubank's always been laid back. He's never been fired up for anything. Like even for Billy Joe, who he really dislikes, you never see him fired up and saying things with much aggression. He always says things in a sort of laid back tone and speaks how he speaks. Conor Benn, on the other hand, is fired up quite a lot. He's really passionate when he speaks. He likes to get in your face and say things, and he's done that with previous opponents. It's not just Eubank. He's done that with, opponents before, that he's had no beef if he just met on a weigh-in day or press conference, and he's in their grill telling them, I'm gonna smash your head in and stuff like that. So it's just their personality. So I don't really think it's more personal for either or. I just think that's just their personalities, and that's how they, choose to show their personality.
And we see obviously a lot of talk about the weight jump and Conor Benn jumping up two weight classes, but his last two fights have been at super welterweight at 154. So if we're going off technical terms, it's only one weight class jump up. But obviously, a lot of people say he is a natural 147-pound fighter. Do you feel that Conor going up two weights to fight Chris, and we can already see how much Chris struggles to make 160 as it is? Do you feel him jumping up two weights isn't going to be beneficial for him at all?
I don't know, man. It depends how comfortable he is at that weight. You know what I'm trying to say? Would the extra weight hinder his performance? Will it, give him more weight behind his punches? Will he be as sharp? It just depends. Like you said, his last few fights have been at 154, but he hasn't had no stoppages or knockdowns at that weight. In those fights at 154. So of course he's the most effective at 47. But I don't know. At 60, maybe his power won't carry like that because if it didn't carry to 54 against a lesser level of opponents to Chris Eubank, I don't think he would trouble Chris Eubank with much of his power. But he is explosive, and if anyone hits you on the chin clean, you're liable to go. So it'll be interesting to see how he performs at that weight class, to be honest. And obviously, if Eubank still has the punch resistance that he once had before.
Overall, after obviously assessing both sides of the fight, what do you think happens if the two meet eventually down the line?
I don't know. You always see the obvious, innit? Obviously, you always favour the bigger man, but Conor Benn's got a few attributes of himself that could benefit him. Eubank's a lot slower. He's not as explosive as he once was when he was younger. How we all know him to be. He tries to box a bit more. We saw a lot of leaky defense in that Zermatta fight, getting hit with some shots, pulling out, going backwards in straight lines and stuff. He hasn't really trained with a coach, so no one's there to pick up on his mistakes anyway. So he's doing a lot of things on his own, and Conor can probably capitalize that if he comes up with a good game plan to kind of force mistakes out of Chris Eubank. But it's just if he can handle Chris Eubank's punching power and his physicality, as he's going to be naturally the bigger man. And after they both weigh in, he's going to be considerably heavier.
If I had to ask you for a prediction, would you have a prediction or are you still unsure?
Well, not really, just to be honest. Not really, to be honest. I think for that fight, I just want to see a good fight. I just want it to make sense because of the advantages and disadvantages that both fighters may have. I just hope that somehow it levels out and we see a good fight rather than a one-sided beatdown from the bigger guy or the smaller guy just not engaging because he feels like he's not physically strong enough or big enough to impose his will. So I just hope it levels out. I'm not really interested in who wins or not. Like I said, I don't really see this as a real fight. If I'm being honest. I just see it as you're fighting for the legacy of your fathers. You got the name, go make your money, do your thing, and then both of you get back to business. Try and win world titles in your weight class.
Fair enough then. Just moving away, obviously, I'd say this time last week now, we saw the fight, not the final, the first press conference for Usyk versus Fury 2. A fight that a lot of people are still looking at as undisputed. And a very different Tyson Fury to what most expected. A lot of people were expecting him to be out there, a lot of comments getting made and harsh predictions, but very respectful of Usyk after the 12 rounds that they shared back in May. What did you make of the mindset from both of them, first of all, from what you could see from them?
I mean, with Fury, both guys, you just shared 12 rounds together, 12 hard, grueling rounds. I mean, you can't do anything but respect each other. Fury coming out of that fight with the loss, he can't come out being the Fury we all know him to be. He has to come out a little bit different, pay a little more respect because you call him an ugly rabbit and middleweight and blah blah, all these things, and then he lost. So you kind of gotta pipe yourself down a little bit. All right, cool, that's a situation, and then just move a little bit differently. He can't come with the same energy than the first fight because the guy that you was throwing insults at and not rating and not respecting and disregarding his achievements and stuff, he beat you. Whether that was mind games or he really believed it, that's another question. If it was mind games, he didn't buy into the mind games, so why would you do it again? And if it was disrespect, you can only respect him now because he beat you. You know what I'm trying to say? So he has to come with a different approach. It's only natural. Of course, Usyk knows that it wasn't an easy fight. He did get the nod, and he had to do a lot. To win, it wasn't easy by any stretch. So obviously, he's given his respect to his opponent in Fury. Like, you know what? That was a tough fight. I gotta respect your team. I'm saying you made it hard for me out there. I mean, I'm not surprised that both men are, giving each other respect, even though that's how Usyk is anyway. But I'm not surprised by that. And I think both men are focused. Fury spoke about some things with his wife and a miscarriage and stuff, but that must be hard to deal with. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure when that would have happened in regards to the fight and stuff, but that is hard to deal with, especially like me going through what I was going through, my son being premature. I couldn't imagine, it was there would have been a miscarriage. I mean, things like that can kind of fry your head. So maybe if that's why Fury wasn't focused, we see a different Fury in this fight. So you got to put all that into consideration. But yeah, Usyk just always looks focused. as ever. True professional. Uh, never. He leaves no stone left unturned. Don't cut no corners. Does everything asked of him. So he's always going to be confident, and we know we're going to see a good Usyk come through. So I'm looking forward to that fight.
What do you think happens on fight night when those two meet on December 21st?
I mean, considering what I've heard from Fury now, it's kind of hard to not say he's going to come back 10 times better, because if he was going through all that mentally and it really had an effect on him, he still performed well. But I can understand the distractions and him not really paying attention, because there's bare like loads of voices in the corner. It was like, who do I listen to? And I'm just going out doing whatever. But based on what I saw the first time round, I'm going to go Usyk again, because I just think if you're going to beat Usyk the best time the first time round, I think he's one of them guys where, like, if he knows what you possess, he knows what you can do, what you're good at. He's clocked you now. He knows how to take that away, and he's going to prepare for what he's just been in the ring with. And Fury's capable of capable of the same things. He's got the talent to do the same thing that Usyk's done. But I just think that win is going to make Usyk more confident. He's going to press forward more, and he knows he can hurt him. I'd go Usyk again, but just considering that, what Fury was talking about, he was going through. I'm not so sure. I'm not so like guaranteed Fury again. Do you know what I mean? I think it's a 55-45, but for Usyk.
So if it all plays out what you think with Usyk winning, obviously we've had the news recently that Anthony Joshua probably will not be fighting Daniel Dubois in a rematch in February now. With
Yeah,
if Fury is to come out with another defeat, do you still feel the fight with Anthony Joshua can be
yeah,
made, still sell
yeah,
out Wembley?
yeah, 100%. I think that could do 100,000 in Wembley. Both are massive names in the UK, and especially if it's their last fight each. If it's both of their last fights and they're saying, look, guys, we're buying out, we're fighting each other, probably a couple of years too late, but we're giving you the fights that you always wanted. Our last fight, who's going to want to miss that? These are you know, two big figures in British sport, British boxing. AJ changed the landscape of British boxing, and Fury has come and conquered, the heavyweight division. So these two guys are legends in our era in their own right that we're probably never going to see again at some point. So if they was to fight each other, Fury coming off for example, Fury doesn't beat Usyk and they're going to retire, and then AJ's not fighting Dubois and he's going to retire, then they can both fight each other, try and break the last record, do 100,000 at Wembley, and then both of them ride up to the sunset, enjoy their money, enjoy their health, enjoy their families, and we would just have to sit back and wait for a new star to arise to give us the nights that they've given us.
I feel like you've just given like almost like a fairy tale ending for both there. Just one last one. Obviously, looking at Daniel Dubois, obviously he is at the moment without an opponent for February. It seems very clear that he'll be fighting again February 2025. But looking at the names in the heavyweight division, we've seen a list from the WBO of who they would approve him to
IBF,
fight. IBF, sorry, IBF, my bad.
yeah, that's
IBF,
right.
even you're correct me here. That's bad from me. A long day. But from the IBF of the people that he can fight, and one of the names that I've seen people hyping up a little bit is Fabio Wardley. He is in that list of approved fighters. If, for example, we were to see Dubois versus Wardley, do you think that is the right fight to make?
I mean, look, Wardley's done a lot. He's done very well for himself. Got some good paydays out in Saudi. Just be a someone with a good pedigree, especially as an amateur in Fraser Clark. So he deserves a world title shot, however it comes. He's been a British champion for a while. I'm not sure if he's European champion. He's a European champion, Fabio Wardley.
I don't think so. I
He's
think the
Commonwealth champion and a couple WA and all that. Yeah,
yeah.
but he's got a few bucks. But the only step next is the world title, and I'm sure he'd want that. You can't just keep hanging around the same level. I know I say that, but he's been winning at these levels, so he's been stepping up slowly. And I think a good fight for him next is, well, whether he wins or not, who knows? But where else does he go? What does he do? Just keep boxing around that British level? I mean, he's gonna want a world title shot. Who doesn't? And he's probably confident that he can probably beat Daniel. I mean, they used to spar years ago. I remember them sparring down when Daniel was training with us at the Peacock, but that was when Wardley was very raw and he wasn't who he is now. So things would have changed. He would have they'd both be confident in fighting each other, and they're in the same stable, so it'll be easy to make. And whoever wins, Queensbury still have a world champion. So I guess it makes sense in a way. So yeah, I won't be surprised if that fight gets made.
Who do you feel is the ideal opponent though for Daniel Dubois next when you look at all the heavyweights out there available?
I can't remember the list too tough, but I see Caballero, I see Bacoli, I see Wardley. and I can't remember the rest. Those are the ones that stood out to me. I mean, for Queensbury, Parker's a good fight. I think I saw Parker's name there as well, and they've been hinting that they'd want the fight. So I think Parker's a good fight. Um, Potential banana skin if he can take Daniel's power, because Parker's a good boxer. We saw him get dropped by Zhang and then get up and win. But then again, Zhang was just too slow that night. I don't know what was going on. Yeah, so I mean, Caballero probably deserves a world title fight. After these last two wins, that even shocked me. I'm not writing that guy up again. Bacoli's, a good opponent also. Very dangerous, big guy. Great performance against Jared Anderson. Even though Jared probably wasn't ready for that level, he was still young, learning his coming up in the game and gaining experience. But he took the opportunity. Credit to him, man. I mean, credit to him. Still, I don't think that harms his stock. Maybe for promoters, but as a fan, I still think Jared Anderson's a good fighter. But yeah, Bacoli, I think Parker or Fabio Wardley, especially where they're both with Queensby. I mean, if whoever wins those fights, I mean, Queensby still have a world champion, like I said. So those probably make the most sense.
Well, Denzel, thank you very much for your time. As always, always appreciated. And best of luck on December 7th when we see you challenge for the third time now for the
Awesome,
British title.
awesome. Thank you.